Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Core today. So this is Smith & Wesson's production line optics ready pistol to kind of keep up pace with the MOS and the SIG RXPs and all that good stuff. But it took Smith & Wesson a lot longer to do this than everybody else. Now I know they've had the Core series out at the custom shop and all that stuff, but this is the production line, everybody can buy it version to really keep up pace with what other manufacturers have been doing the past several years. And if you've been waiting for a girl like this to come into your life, definitely let me know in the comments. And also, I did notice on this, I've had it a couple months now, the trigger in here felt far better than my original 2.0 M&P that's probably like 4 or 5 years old now. If that's been your experience, let me know down below. Let's go ahead and get right into the specs on this thing so you can see what it's all about. We'll take a look at how those optic plates fit in there because you do get several different versions to fit all those major brands out there. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, turn the bell notification icons on, and definitely give this video a like if you're into the optics ready stuff. Or even if you're not into the optics ready stuff, just go ahead and smash that thumbs up button for me. Check out Shall Not Comply for that sweet 2A swag, but we are going to get into this thing right now. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this M&P 2.0 Competition Optics Ready model here. So Core, Competition Optics Ready. Now what we're going to do right off the bat is go ahead and just knock out the specs on this thing. So this is a full-size frame. It is the 4¼ inch barrel. So you can see kind of how that fits on my hand there. 17+1. This version that I have did come with 3 magazines with it, 9mm, 40-45, I think they offer all those calibers. 7.5 inches in total length. It did come with the white dot Trigicon suppressor height sights on it from Smith & Wesson, which is nice in case your optic goes down. Striker fired synthetic polymer, we all know that. Stainless steel barrel, stainless steel slide. It is in their Armor Night finish is what they call that finish. It looks good. I know it holds up quite well. I've had the M&Ps before. 27.2 ounces and a 4¼ inch barrel on there. So in all, it's right in there with the Glock 17 MOS, which is basically what this thing is fighting for. Let's go ahead and go over kind of just how this thing feels and how it fits, and, you know, all that stuff from magwell to muzzle like we normally do here. So 17 round mags, they are nice. You got a little depression you can see right there in case you got to strip a mag out of there. You got a, you know, bad malfunction going on, double feed, class 3, whatever you want to call it. Back up in here, you've got your little tool. So if you don't know, technically there's a tool in here that you can use to use the sear disconnector. We'll get to that more in a second. You do have your interchangeable palm swells back here on that back strap. I think I'm running the medium right now. That's just the one that really seems to fit. I gotta say, I really love the M&P texture. It really has the nicest texture of a lot of striker fired ones out there in my opinion, and it's just everywhere. It just consumes the whole grip, even on to the magazine release there. They did a really good job there. Ergonomically, much more of a 1911-esque, you know, a lot less aggressive of a grip angle than say a Glock. Coming up in here into the trigger guard, it's a polymer striker fire trigger guard. It's not going to be anything great. It's not going to be anything terrible. The trigger guard is pretty generous for my big old fingers, so that is always nice if you got hot dog fingers like me. Going up from there, it's going to be typical everything else. You're going to see your slide stop, slide release right here. This is your takedown lever. You've got some relief cuts in here. Going forward, you've got multiple slot pick rail in there. It is ambidextrous slide stop, slide release, and then a swappable mag release right there as well. And there's plenty of aftermarket parts for this stuff out there. If you haven't seen my other 2.0 videos, the triggers and everything I've done to it, plenty of stuff out there. Get back up into the slide here now. We'll talk about the trigger in a minute. Standard looking back plate. Striker fire guns are very similar if you don't know. You got your rear serrations. You do have some front serrations here. They're small, okay, but they are workable from the top or the bottom. You just got to use your man hands. Going forward from there, You're going to have your extractor, looks very, very normal. Standard looking barrel come up. You got your Smith & Wesson logo. It's been nicely kind of chamfered. I don't even know what you'd call that. It's not chamfered, but it's kind of reliefed in. You can see where the material's been thinned across the top there. The nose is fairly square on that bad boy, but it is depressed in here on the side. And you got the same thing going on the other side. Smith & Wesson Core 2.0. It's got a little, that's actually a little optic. That's a little red dot right there. It looks kind of cool. M&P 9, all the basic logos that you are going to have. Now let's talk quickly about that trigger. So it is the striker fired trigger safety design, but it's a little bit different than like a blade safety. So the M&P has the two-piece trigger that's on a hinge, which honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it, but for some odd reason, the newer M&P 2.0s, trigger feels a lot better. So you have to have the trigger fully like this set so it will actually clear the frame. Otherwise, it's going to lock and you won't be able to fire, which is solid. And we will do some pulls here in a minute. Now, as far as the takedown on this, let me grab one of my little tools because I don't want to pull the bottom out. It's much like striker fired stuff out there. You lock it to the rear, takedown lever goes down, okay, and then you look down in here. There is a little yellow arm and you push that forward. That disconnects the sear, so the striker is going to become non-functional. It also is a secondary check to ensure that you have it unloaded and you can just take it apart, okay? You can push that back up now. You can also just make sure it's unloaded and pull the trigger just like a Glock, but this is like a secondary safety style setup. Coming up into the slide, you can see I've done my first in-depth cleaning job on this bad boy after the range. After you give these some punishment, you really need to do a thorough cleaning on them. Looking up in here, it's gonna look very similar to every other striker fired thing you have seen. That's your striker block safety right there, that nice shiny little looking plunger that looks exactly like a Glock. That's your striker lug right there. Comes apart very, very easily, just like everything else. Not a full breakdown here today. This is just the overall of it. So this would be your battlefield strip right here for cleaning purposes and basic maintenance. Now let's go ahead, take a good look in here, and I'm going to explain, because I love explaining this stuff to you guys because I get to nerd out on it, and you guys seem to enjoy it because when I know how a trigger works, that helps me understand what's going on. So as we look at this bad boy right here, we can see the trigger bar, okay, instead of being the whole bar being kind of pulled like a Glock, it's being pushed, right, but it also has a spring pulling it back right here. You got the vertical extension right here that corresponds with the striker block safety. And on this, a little bit different, you've got the way this works, it's like the inverse of the connector on a Glock, and that'll make a little bit more sense here in just a second. So as you pull the trigger, this is your sear surface right here, that bad boy. So that's what your striker lug is going to be hanging on. Your trigger bar, the vertical extension, depresses the striker block safety. It hits this little side of the sear disconnector, and the sear will move like that, and the striker goes forward. So if you know a Glock, the connector sits right here. It gets touched by a portion of the slide, and that kicks the connector over and the trigger bar over, and then it goes back forward. Well, on the M&P, they've done the reverse. So it's the trigger bar that does everything. So as it fires, the slide reciprocates. Top part of the slide hits this, pulls the trigger bar itself over, which allows the striker to reset. So I'll show that one more time. You pull the trigger back, the sear goes down, the striker lug goes forward, the slide reciprocates, hits the trigger bar, pulls it over, and that sear resets, and then you're back in business, going back to work out there on the range. Interesting trigger. Like I said, feels good, definitely better than a Glock trigger out of the box. That is 100% for sure. Speaking about that, let's go ahead and always do a functions check when you get it back together, but let's do some pulls on this thing. I've only got a few hundred rounds through here, guys. I think I've actually only got about 250, maybe 300. Ammo's tight right now, so that's all I've got, but let's see where this trigger is pulling at. We will do 3 pulls as usual and see what we're working with. But overall, the trigger does feel pretty good. So that one is showing like 5 pounds and 2 ounces right there. It feels quite a bit less than that, but it's difficult to get where I normally would pull the trigger here with this pull gauge because of the arc in that trigger and how it is slanted forward. Okay, so getting a little bit more where I normally go on there, you can see that that is going to be about 4 pounds and 6 ounces, which is what it feels like. It's just, again, it's a little tough to work this gauge on here. So last one, and we'll kind of call it the rule of the average here. All right, so that one was actually 4 pounds and 4 ounces. Yep, 4 pounds and 4 ounces. So not bad out of a striker fired setup. Okay, so there's your take up, right? You get a good defined wall, tiny bit of creep and a break. Reset's very short and tactile. Kind of does the same thing that the H&K does, right? So when you come out, it kind of, if you're going real slow, it almost stutters right there. And then you've got a little bit you can actually work back, okay? So H&K, I kind of notice the trigger does the same thing, but in all, not bad. Solid little trigger, solid optics ready setup. Well, let's go ahead and talk about range footage, how it feels out there, how it fires, and of course, the price point. Oh, and one last thing, the optics plates. I almost forgot that, guys. You're gonna get all the basic optic plates for the big name brands. One thing I would have liked to have seen, these plates do feel far better than like the Glock MOS casted plates. These ones are much nicer in my opinion. So you can see in the back right here, they did a really good job filling that whole space up. But then in the front, they didn't put anything to fill that up to the slide. Now that could be because, you know, certain optics are going to ride further forward depending on what it is, and they're trying to accommodate so much. So like when you buy aftermarket plates, like say C&H Precision, it fills all those gaps up. I'm assuming there's a reason, but that's just one thing I noticed. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. All right, so now that you know the specs, let's see a little bit more of the range footage on this bad boy. At first, I want to talk about that trigger. Like I said, the trigger just felt better than the other M&P 2.0s that I own or that I've got to shoot in the past. I don't know why, I don't know if something changed in there, but it felt much smoother and a little bit lighter for some reason. I'm probably going to leave that one stock. I've got the Apex in my other one, but this one, it is doing just fine. As far as the angles go on this bad boy, I dig it. The Smith & Wesson M&P has really solid angles, and it performs exactly what we would expect an M&P to perform out there on the range. Having the optic on there is definitely nice. Now, they did give the addition of the suppressor height night sights. That way you can pretty much co-witness or at least have a backup iron sight through just about every optic that I know about there. It's going to fit in there, this one being the Hollow Sun, but whether it's a Delta Point or Trijicon, even like a Vortex, you're going to be able to see a sight picture if your dot should go down. Now, two things about the M&P that always kind of got me. For some odd reason, my hand just feels really weird up under this trigger guard right here. The way it kind of bows down so close, my knuckle always ends up coming over it. And that's just kind of due to the size of my hand, but that's one thing. If you've got larger hands, you're going to get up in there like that, and it's just going to feel a little bit different. The other thing is this slide stop and slide release here. It's really, really tight initially when you get the M&Ps. Now remember, the M&P 1.0s were super tight until you got a decent amount of rounds through them. And there were a couple of times out there on the range where I absolutely just swiped right by it. It's not very far extended. It could be probably quite a bit further out and give a little bit more meat on there. That's my two gripes about the M&P and the way it sits. But other than that, the thing shoots exceptionally well out there. As far as those optic mounting plates goes, I really would have liked to see them finish those plates a little bit better. They really could have made that kind of like the C&H Precision plates are, where it fills up that entire space in there and gives a very solid mounting platform. Now, in all, the plates seem to not be as flexible, I guess, as the Glock MOS ones. There is quite a bit of flex in those. These ones feel a lot more solid. And again, you're going to get the ones with this to fit most of the major optic brands out there. Now, if you got some weird optic you ordered from wish.com, it may not bolt up to the plates that come with this thing, So do your research on that. Well, if you are a Smith & Wesson fan, or specifically an M&P fan, and you're looking for that optics-ready platform, I think this is a solid option to go with. They've got a couple different versions. They've obviously got the longer barrel, that 5-inch barrel. This is the 4 1/4. They do have the compact version. That's my other M&P 2.0, but it had to get milled because they didn't have the core out yet. They're definitely solid setups out there, and I don't think you would have buyer's remorse if you got one, especially if you like a more flat angle when it comes to that pistol grip and not having that really arced grip when it comes to like a Glock where you really got to force that muzzle down, which for somebody like me just puts my wrists in kind of a weird angle. And that price point, I saw this thing kind of sitting around that like $650 to $699 price range, but things are just fluctuating so bad around the price points right now, that and I couldn't even find any of them in stock. But at the time of filming this video in January of 2021, which is turning out to be interesting already, I saw that thing for about $650 to $699. I hope you guys liked learning about the M&P 2.0 core today. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn the bell notification icons on, give that video a thumbs up, all the good things, because that stuff really does help the channel. If you guys are into these, good luck finding one, man. Get out there, have some fun on the range, and remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, we hot. Does Max look good in these pants?